Right, shall we get this pantomime horse of a podcast underway for week 6? Crikey, is it week 6 already? Right then, hang on a second. Did you bring your beer?
Oh, I did not. No, but I have got an empty Peroni glass.
Well, that's rubbish. I brought
I did
my
not.
I brought my
Look at that.
beer. Cheers.
Oh, I'll see if I can get one rustled up. Hang on, let me send a message out. I'll get into trouble for this. Can you bring me a beer, please?
It's important. It's work related.
Yeah. There we go.
We might get an angry guest appearance
We'll
very
be
shortly.
very angry. How dare you start without me?
That's right. Yeah. What did
Very
your last butler die of?
Exactly, I wish. Well, good afternoon, Neil. It's a pleasure to spend some time with you, musing over a week. I put a thing on LinkedIn. I think I reposted it with our ramblings about trying to build an AI business, and you can come along and listen in. So here comes my beer.
Fabulous. Cheers.
I will open it. Cheers.
Excellent.
It's work related.
It is work related. It is work related.
You're our guest on our podcast now, by the way. The ethereal voice of my beer deliverer.
That's nice. That's very nice. Cool. Right. Well, I've got 3 topics I want to talk about this week. So let me run through those, and then you can run through your things.
Yeah.
I've got some lessons learned. I have some customer feedback, and then we're into a little bit of the techie side with Copilot, and again being asked about the differences between Copilot and KnowledgeFlow. It comes up all the time, so I wanted to get into those things a little bit because they're important, because they're actually quite different, but I can understand why lots of people don't understand. And that's because of a language thing that came up for me this week around AI is just such a short acronym, but means so much. It's like saying, I work in computing. What the hell does that mean? It's like, yeah, it just, back in the 80s or 70s, 80s when I started work, crikey, yeah, you could say you worked in computers, and people thought you were nuts then. But now, of course, it's such a divergent topic. What does that mean? So
I might
AI.
start using it. I might start saying I work in computers.
That's right. Yeah. And you'll start saying, "I'm nearly 50, don't you know?"
Well, when I say, I lead an AI company, and then whenever I say that to someone in a pub, I mean, there's the next half an hour we're off. And so maybe if I just say I work in computers, they'll step away. So stepping backwards.
Yeah. It was my least successful chat-up line in 1980s nightclubs, I can tell you.
Very good. Well, on my list, I've got measuring usage versus impact. I want to talk about that. That's come up a lot, and we're working on that, as you know. I also want to talk about hallucination and getting things wrong and what we do when things are incorrect. So I'm keen to do that. And there is, a few other bits I can touch on. I was thinking our product of the week. I'll come to that later, but product of the week conversation.
Okay. Well, shall I start with my first lesson learned? Because it's a little bit of a jokey one on a Friday afternoon. I learned that some people are having non-AI days, and my initial reaction was, what? And apparently it's along the line. I mean, I'd heard of no email mornings so people can do deep work, and I'd heard of no meetings Fridays. Interesting, if everybody who's ever met who's implemented a no meeting Friday always caves, and they always take meetings on a Friday because it's the only spare slot they've got in their bloody diaries. So but actually I was thinking about the no AI days. It's like, that's got to be nuts, right? Does that mean that I can't use the thing that helps me be creative, do a better job faster? I now have to go back to the using just slate and
the
tablets of
Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah, it just struck me as nuts, and I get it. Some people don't like AI slop; they want people to think for themselves. But I put a post out on on LinkedIn, which was along the lines of, it's like saying calculators are banned in maths because I cheated at my maths homework once. And I'm sorry, Mrs. Dixon. Anyway, Mrs. Dixon caught me, and she was bloody cross at the time, so I haven't forgotten. But yeah, no AI days. I
What
thought
a
that was
crazy idea,
absolute nonsense. That was
isn't it
just like
just?
absolute. Anyway,
And here's the thing, like, about the sort of view that the view that creates that sort of position is, I think, it's just a massive ignorance of AI. And it's interesting. We're at that point of, well, people have an opinion quite easily by having seen someone else's, heard someone else. They don't really have their own opinion. They've decided that whatever opinion they've heard is, yes, that one, that's my opinion now. And I think there's so much of that in AI of like, and we were asked, for example, like, are you using our data to train public models? And you're like, well, we're not building public models, as you can well tell. We're not an LLM provider, are we?
that's
So
right.
it's kind of, I mean, that's quite a detailed one potentially, but there is so many questions and so many points of view and strong opinions which are really very poorly grounded in any fact. So there you go. That's, yeah. I mean, that we'll come back to that when we talk about Copilot versus KnowledgeFlow.
The ignorance thing, though, and pick up on that, 'cause that leads to my second lesson learned really from this week. Was I've been playing this week with Claude,
Oh,
and
yes.
they're shipping an update on average every 8 hours at the moment.
Yeah, amazing,
That
isn't
is
it?
just unbelievable. And the pace of change and the quality of the tools is tremendous. But it leads me to that, back to something we've talked about before, and we'll no doubt come back to again. It's that kind of where people are saying, "Oh, I mean, I'm waiting for the right moment," or "We're not ready," or "We need to get our AI strategy." And I think the real problem for lots of organisations is going to be that the longer they leave it, the wider that gap in knowledge and understanding and usage and ability to use it well is just going to grow and grow. And those who grasp it are going to have a much better advantage and are going to make a real differentiator for their organizations. And that leads on to one of my customer feedback points. We had some great feedback this week from a customer who remain nameless, but they work in the housing sector. They have tenants, and they have used one of their tools called Write My Reply more than 2,000 times already this month. And that's massive. But actually, when I think about it, that means that there's 2,000 replies that have been checked against policies. It means that they're accurate, they're all spelt correctly. It means no one can inadvertently say something wrong or give some poor advice. So it's absolutely brilliant. And that's a great example of AI not replacing people, but helping your people do a better job. And I think we need to create more stories about that kind of activity, because that's a really great example of a sector which, you wouldn't necessarily expect AI to make a big difference, but it really is.
It does. And in housing, one of the things that is a challenge for them is a tenant inquiry becoming a complaint later, because in some cases, because of poor handling of the response.
Yeah.
So having something that understands the problem, that's what Write My Reply is designed to do, is to make sure it's dealing with the wider problem, not necessarily just the specific point, and properly dealing with it rather than ignoring bits that are important to a tenant. So yeah, it's great. I'm delighted they're using it. I think it's fantastic that it's hopefully making a big impact, and hopefully there'll be more satisfied tenants in the
Surely
world.
will be.
But
But come back to the just
sorry.
to finish off on the complaints thing. I think I might have told you this already, but I was chatting to a GP who's getting more and more complaints, but that he said you can tell they're much more sophisticated than they used to be, because people are using ChatGPT to write their complaints, and we have to be much more sophisticated in the responses. But currently, because we don't use AI, it means that I'm getting escalated loads of complaints, and so as head of practice, I'm spending much more time on answering complaint letters because they're pretty well crafted and they're pretty spot on. So you've got to be real careful. So yeah, I think there's loads of applications for that sort of consistency and tone of voice and accuracy of response that could be used across a whole load of different sectors.
Yeah, and as one of the CEOs of a housing association said to me, empowering her team, it's quite intimidating getting a complaint or inquiry that is got the law and case law in it and various things, then it makes you spend twice as long creating a response.
No,
And they
you won't
don't
get
have
it right.
twice as long, because guess what? They got twice as many complaints as well now because of AI. So she was saying being able to empower the team with something that at least allows them to, I was going to say fight back. That's not the right word, really, is it? But at least be able to compassionately
respond.
deal with it.
Yeah.
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 But on your AI gap, I think there's several things in there I find really interesting. On organizations not keeping up. Does it matter? Is it going to be the case that actually there's going to be some new AI that comes out in 6 months that doesn't matter what you knew before because it's all different? And I don't think so. But I think here's the real, I think I've heard only today, there are social workers declining jobs in councils because they didn't have an AI tool that social worker was used to using in a previous one.
Wow.
Now that is, and I've been saying that for quite some time, particularly about colleges where they say there's no first mover advantage. We may as well wait until it all settles down. The reality is that is already happening. Fact, not just like anecdote. It's actually happening. So I think there is a good reason why you can't afford to wait. Secondly, I think once someone really, and I would love to have this conversation with somebody, housing is an area which, I mean, is rife for this in my mind, is building an AI first, bottom up housing association with AI. Just like everything starts with what could we do here with AI rather than people.
Yeah.
And so it's not about displacing jobs so much as saying, well, we don't need the jobs in the first place in a whole bunch of these places. And the jobs that we do hire will be fascinating and relationship focused roles. But I think that and when I think about housing, the reason I use housing really, and I'm at the edge of my knowledge really, there's so much that goes on, but fundamentally you want a house. And you don't really mind whether someone knows you or doesn't know you. I'm sure that's not true for a whole bunch of tenants in difficult circumstances. But what you do care about is having a warm house that you can live in and that stays warm. And if it isn't warm, gets fixed quite quickly. And it's low hassle, hopefully not too expensive.
You feel safe, all of that good stuff.
Exactly. And how much of that is people versus if you could perform 90% of that, and I don't believe for a minute you could do all of it. I think there are difficult relationships to manage. There is some need for hands-on personal touch. But I'm really interested, and I think that's the world of, if you haven't caught up and sort of got halfway there, when someone does that and creates the bottom up, and estate agency is kind of a really easy model of that. I mean, how are you going to compete? It's going to be interesting. And the last point of that, which I think is really interesting to me, and it fascinates me that people don't seem to have grasped this, it's something nobody's talking about. We talk to our customers, and we'll typically go into our customers on a specific AI assistant in quality in colleges, repairs in housing, in universities, AMR, annual monitoring, review and regulatory reporting. They love what we provide and they share it with their team, but they don't really share it with people widely, and they don't see it as their role to. And I understand why. You've got enough to do without sort of being the AI champion. That's the thing, though. If I was in a college right now, I would do everything in my power to be the AI lead, because you're going to be the chief AI officer. That's definitely coming. There's no doubt in my mind that is a role that is going to be happening. And you're going to be the one person that knows everything about what's going on, can empower the colleagues. And if and when there are job reductions, you're the last person going out the door. You're running, everything. So I think from a selfish level of I want to protect my job, from an impact level, you're going to have the most impact you could possibly have in any role in a college. And I include the CEO in that, by being a driver of AI use for appropriate use within a college. You're going to have a massive impact on your learners and on your staff. I'm surprised people aren't running and jumping to be that person.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we talked a couple of weeks ago about the chap at Bet who had how to become the AI lead in your school, and he was standing room only in his session. Yet in other areas, people just aren't embracing it, or we've got people saying, "Oh yeah, that's an IT job," or "That's my job," or whatever else, and it all gets lost, doesn't it? So and just on the teaching thing, link back to what you were just saying. I remember you doing some presentations for schools and maths saying you're going to have a recruitment problem when teachers say, well, what AI tools are you using? If you haven't got any, they're going to go, thanks very much. And I thought it was a long way away, but if that's already happening in social work, it really isn't very far away in other sectors too either, is it? So,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So go on, what was your other point you wanted to talk about? You were talking about, go on, you tell me.
All right, I will.
I can't find my note.
Yes, sir. How's your memory going?
Yeah, it's that beer. I had 3 sips of beer now. Can't remember a
You've
thing.
lost it already.
I'll be telling jokes soon.
Yeah, excellent. Look forward to it. The other bit of customer feedback that I wanted to share from this week, which I thought was tremendous, was at the back end of last year, we pitched to a global organization. And they went, we really like the product. We'd like you to share it with other parts of the organization globally. So we did that. And then another part of the world said, oh, our IT team can do that. So we don't need you. Thank you very much. And we thought that was the end of it. This week, we got an email which basically said, it turns out our IT people aren't good enough and can't do it. So please, can we have a conversation about you doing it for us? So that was absolutely delightful. I was really pleased with that, because that whole kind of, well, we can do that. We get that an awful lot. And some of that's linked to the Copilot thing, because everybody's got Copilot and say, oh, Copilot can do that, but Copilot can't do that. Copilot's a very different tool. It's like the difference between a hammer and a screwdriver. They're different things for different tools for different jobs, and but we get it all the time. But yeah, just that kind of 3 months ago, thought that lead was dead, and then the customer comes back and says, no, they really couldn't do it. And I hope we get many more of those, because actually the things that we are doing are quite technical and quite difficult, and they just do the things that it can do things that Copilot can't. So I'm delighted. I just wanted to share that story with you.
Well, it's good. And the Copilot thing, I mean, just hammering that a little bit, constantly asked, why can't, surely Copilot can do this? How are we different from Copilot? And the big thing that I get a lot, and I'm quite frustrated about, is when people say, well, a Copilot Studio can do the same RAG style AI that ours can do. And right now we're dealing with a challenge from one of our customers where their policy assistant is giving the wrong information about something. Very specific point. It's about a number of days with which a student can make a claim for an extension or extenuating circumstances. So we're trying to get to the bottom of what's going on here. And what is going on is it's picking up a 10-day period, which is mentioned in the document a couple of sections later, instead of the 5 days that it should be up front. Now, the thing I say when IT folks say Copilot Studio can do this, it is an ignorance layer that is speaking. And I love that that client you talked about had a try of it, because they would have thought, yeah, look at this, it's magic. Yeah. And then realised that it's not magic, particularly in that world, because that one's in that particular customer is looking at CVs. And there are all kinds of nuances to how you work with CVs that are not the same as just throwing them into a model and hoping.
Yeah.
But I did want to just pause on the kind of what we are doing and what we have the team doing today to try and crack this problem with this what is a hallucination, really. I guess it is. It's crosstalk, as we would call it. It's picking the wrong piece of a very similar kind of piece. And it's to do with the way the prompt is written that isn't particularly tight, but we have to deal with that because that's how someone has chosen to ask the question. And there are so many parts to RAG AI, which, if you've used Copilot Studio or Notebook LM and you just see the magic, you don't think about it. You're like, my word, that's amazing. When it's wrong, we get to work on where's it finding that data from. There's a thing of chunking, as you know, chunk sizes in how we choose to process that data. And that's a decision you make, is what chunk size you want, what chunk overlap you want between chunks so that it knows the context in the previous one. Yeah. Whether to put hybrid into there as well, so that it's doing semantic chunking, so that it's looking at context as well as chunk size and everything else. All of those are questions you've got to decide and play with and think about. And then you've got, after that, the way retrieval RAG knows, and I know you've heard me whining on about this in our geeky sessions. But the way retrieval actually works, and the way I try and describe it in RAG, is you can imagine a kind of library of books. They're all your policies. When you ask your question, that is put through a process called embeddings to turn it into numbers. Those numbers become a search of the books. They do a cosine similarity search, which finds the things that are most closely related to the same numbers in what you've asked, the same numbers effectively of how that's indexed.
Yeah.
And so the first thing is strictness on that cosine similarity, how many you're bringing back, how close you are bringing back. Then there's a thing called top K, which is how many of those things you're going to bring back to look at, and you can have that very low or to relatively high. You have like 30, 40 different, 200 we've had in some of our use cases. And then you've got top P, which is a setting that is all about the probability score. So what happens is those 20 chunks you bring back, they are again, through probability, laid out in order of their likelihood to be answering the question. And the top P determines how many of those you're going to then deal with. Not you want to deal with all of them, that would be a top P of 1, or you're going to do with a percentage of them. The final step is then related to temperature, the first and final step, which is about how your words are constructed and how tightly you want to link it down. If you use slang with a temperature of 0, it won't recognize slang. With a temperature higher, it will. All of those parts come together to get retrieval to happen. And then there's re-ranking in the last step, and there's hybrid keyword search in there as well. There is so much, is my point. And if you don't know that, which no one does, well, very few people do, how on earth do you start getting to the bottom of where something's incorrect? So saying Copilot Studio can do it, I kind of sigh inside and be like, yeah, okay. There you go. I've gone on. I have.
You have. I didn't realise this was going to turn into a training session stroke rant, but it was good.
Well, rant and training, I think. Those are probably my training sessions are like that.
Yeah, rant training. You'd be pretty good at that, fella. There's no doubt about it. Cool. All right. Well, what else was on your list then? That's most of my stuff. I've got a couple of other little snippets, but what else was on your list?
The other sort of big subject which I touched on is usage versus impact.
Really yes, that is important.
Yeah, so we track usage on our tools, number of unique users, number of prompts, and tokens ultimately, because that's what we actually have to pay for. And it's really interesting because we've got very fixated on that, and rightly so, because that tells us how popular or not the tools are, and which ones are getting a lot of use and which ones less so, and all that stuff. However, I am conscious that we have fallen, I think, into a bit of a trap of counting what's easy to count.
Yeah.
And rather than what we should be trying to look at, which is impact.
Yeah.
So, because I know if you press one button on our Ofsted tool, it will review all of your data against Ofsted criteria and tell you how you stack up with one press, one person, one prompt, that would be. Yeah. But if you try and do that in Copilot, you're going to be, firstly, I doubt you can do it properly unless you're really good. And secondly, if you're really good, you're probably 30 prompts into trying to do something similar.
Yeah.
And so I think that impact, but those 30 prompts, by the way, aren't just a waste of your time, aren't just inconsistency amongst your staff, because everyone's going to be doing their own slightly different variant of it. But it's a massive, if you care about the environmental impact of AI, you've just taken 30 times the effort to do something that we've done in one hit. Not quite 30 times, but yeah.
Just as you were talking about impact, a thought occurred to me. So I haven't tested this with anybody else. So you might tell me this is all, I was going to say a rude word, all nonsense, been drinking. The safeguarding module that we talked about last week, where it monitors the query, it categorizes it, it then flags it and alerts somebody if necessary, if something bad happens. Yeah. I wonder whether we should do something similar with impact. I wonder if there's something we can do to look at the queries and try and categorize them and do some reporting on them. And I know we already do some reporting on, so many people have used private ChatGPT, so many people have used Write My Reply, but actually, and I know that we already do a little bit of this, which is sort of categorizing the prompts.
Yeah.
But I wonder whether we could take a similar approach to the to what we've done with the safeguarding piece and looking at the impact and then producing reports for customers on saying, you know, we've got so many people this month looking at, I don't know, policy on complaints for tenants complaints, neighborhood complaints, all those kind of things. I don't know whether some we're categorizing and saying, you know, these are the big areas that you've been your people have been asking about and producing some better intel for the organizations to go, actually, this is a real problem for us.
And we have done that in the early days when we had fewer customers. We used to run the prompts through one of our AI tools to pull out do estimates on time saving, which is an interesting analogy. It's not the same as impact, but you know, something like pressing that quality button and having your Ofsted report produced for you is very significant time saving
in 20 minutes rather than 2 weeks.
Indeed, yeah, exactly. So we could, and I guess we could get that built into the admin console in some way to estimate time. So it's very fraught, the time saving.
No, but it wasn't. No, that's not really where I was coming from. Really, it was more the kind of having a regular. Yeah, this is about empowering the customer, right? This is what people in your organisation are asking about. If they're all asking about how you make the best chocolate cake, you've got a problem in your business or organisation. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but if everyone's asking about, you know, a specific problem, or we've had out of the 2,000 queries we've had this month, 1,500 of them about Airwab's law in housing. You know, that is significant and important because there are real world implications around all of that stuff. So being able to say, okay, what about Airwab's law? You know, is there a way of segmenting and chunking that, protecting privacy of the individual? I don't know if you saw any of the stuff. It might have been PwC or Accenture saying, unless your AI usage is going up, you're not going to be a partner, or you're going to get fired out of the consultancy business.
I did see that.
So I sound crikey. So and we're not in that business of putting the frighteners on people about AI, because that's just nonsense. But there is something about, take that example of Airwab's law, which I'm busking because I don't really know about it.
Yeah.
But actually, there's got to be so many facets around that. You know, is it to do with type of mold? Is it to do with repairs? Is it to do with whatever it is? And actually being able to give some intelligent feedback, or indeed allow the customers to do some intelligent querying of the queries that are being put in by their people. I think there's some real value in that.
Yeah, interesting. Well, we should definitely get into that more. We can do it, and I think you're right. It will be fascinating for people in organisations, for CEOs and leaders, and help with whether you need training for your staff or different policies, or indeed just knowing that that's a lot of that's going on right now.
Yeah,
it's really interesting.
Well, we need the Donald back from Tenerife, where he's probably...
Come on, Donald, what are you doing out there? There was a storm, apparently, I heard.
I know. I hope it's not going to slow him coming back. We've got so much to do. We can't have him going on holiday.
I've had him on email today, so in our usual, we're on holiday, but there's just a couple of things, Donald. Actually, on this, we had him on the hallucination stuff. I've had him getting involved in that.
But it's not hallucination, is it? I was going to pick you up on this before.
Yeah,
hallucination is where it's making it up. Crosstalk is a different issue.
It's pulling something from the wrong place. And
correct.
I think it's a chunk size problem is where we're going next. I think that might be what we can mess with.
But you've fallen into your own ignorance layer of just going, no, it's hallucination. It's not hallucination.
You're right.
So,
it is clearly in the policies, and they're very clearly there, but it's just mixing the wrong part in. So
correct.
There you go. Product of the week. Play your jingle now.
Jingle. Got it.
Good. I'm glad you got. I hope it was a joyful one.
It was.
So I was going to talk about two things. One is Marketing Buddy, which do you remember Mark Slater?
I do.
He just messaged me saying, "Your Marketing Buddy. I want to talk to you about it."
Nice.
So, which is really interesting. So, we should. I will dust that off. But I think there's a whole.
I don't know if you have you looked at his stuff. It's really good. Purple dinosaur things and stuff he's been doing. It's really interesting. I looked some of his stuff up fairly recently, and I made a note to contact him, and then of course didn't, because the world got in the way. But yeah, no, he's a good guy. Slash, like him a lot.
Yeah, good. Well, I think, I think while I'm going to talk to him about it, I think we can build out the whole marketing knowledge flow. So the way knowledge flow works, just quickly for our audience, is we've got a version for housing, which is all unique to them. We have a version for colleges, which is unique to them, a version for multi-academy trusts, unique to them, universities, unique to them, etc. So each of the assistants is very specialized to do things that in that area wants to do. And in marketing, we've got a session coming up, and the whole kind of media and advertising world. I think there's some really interesting things: client reporting, producing the copy,
Yeah,
consistent tone of voice, analysis of big data. You interestingly, anyone who's played with AI, you can take like your Google Analytics data and shove it in and go, what does this really mean? And it actually turns it into stuff that you can make sense of. But the idea that you can plow through your data to give clients reports, I think we could build that. And here's for the brave media company out there. I would love to try this. And you've got to be brave. You could give your clients chat with their campaign data. And that would mean you loading their raw data, so their clicks and their all of their kind of main metrics, and letting them ask what they want when they want and in their way. So you're not sending them that report that they're staring at going, what does this mean? They can actually ask stuff. I think that transparency would be amazing, because that is, the whole world of media is a little murky,
yeah,
a little. How much do we have to pay for that?
that's right.
So I think that would be fascinating. But we could definitely build all of that out, and I think I'll be interested to talk to Mark about what's on his mind really, and see what we can do. We've got a bunch of tools in that space already with various writers. I know that one of our organizations uses our RAG model to load sort of detailed technical documents and then turn those into a nice user-facing blog aimed at, that people can understand more easily and in the tone of voice, and saves, frankly, it makes it possible for
Yeah,
someone who's not a deep knowledgeable person about the Windows 11 rollout,
yeah,
but can take that and turn that into stuff that is digestible. So lots in marketing, and I know people are doing a lot already, and they're not that bothered about client data, it turns out, because loads of them are using ChatGPT and Claude and
oh dear,
whatever,
oh
which is,
dear,
one of these days it's going to
that's
blow
going
up
to
in a
bite
thing.
them.
Yeah, it's going to be a nightmare for lots of people someday. But so yeah, let's see what we can do in that space. So we're coming after you, Slash.
Nice.
Good stuff. How are you
Very
doing? You've
good.
got to go to the dentist, haven't you? Have you got time to a couple more bits, or are we going to wrap up?
Well, I've got one more bit. Yeah, I do have to go to the blinking dentists after this, but I'll let our audience into a secret. It's actually non-alcoholic beer I'm drinking before I go to the dentist. So
Ah,
so next week normal service will be resumed with proper beer, but this week it's a dentist, I'm afraid. And it was about our audience that I wanted to make a breaking news, Kieron, breaking news. We apparently have an audience of one in Australia as well as
wow,
in the UK.
my word,
So
we've gone global. We've
we
got Canada,
have gone
We are
global.
fully global now.
So now we've got an audience in the UK and an audience in Australia. So we now fully have a global audience. We can say this
That's
podcast has
two
got.
downloads maybe we had then. Actually, I've also been told that my son's wonderful girlfriend's parents are now listeners as well.
Oh
So
no.
yeah, so I should put a tie on or something.
Yeah, you should.
As you know, they work in the working, well, at least her dad does, works in the murky world of media and advertising. So there'll
Oh,
be
I
no
didn't know that.
ties worn in there.
No, 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 no. Anyway, I'd like to say hello to Karen Foster, our audience in Australia. So, hello, Karen,
Hello, Karen.
and we'll be in touch very soon.
But that is very
Cool. Well,
good.
speaking of old colleagues, didn't you have a catch up with our old friend Cameron Mirza too recently?
Oh, I did. Yes, I caught up
Ah,
with him only this morning, in fact. So
oh,
yeah, he's
really? How was he
yeah,
doing?
very good. He's living out in the Middle East, so obviously
I
there's
know. I was worried
a few
about him.
challenges. Few
Yeah.
challenges. Although he actually says it is, what's his words? I'm trying to pick them carefully. Not
Yes.
as it is, the Western media is making more of it than it might feel if you live there. That's,
Okay.
I think, the polite way of putting what he said. So
Okay.
no, very good. He is very interested in bringing knowledge flow into some of the universities in Middle East and North Africa, where he is pretty well respected and does a lot of advisory work on, I think, a lot on reputation, how you ensure that you're actually doing the things internally that means that you can be high up the scores of various international league tables. So that's really good. So we're very keen to support that work as much as we can. And we'll see what becomes of it. But he's got quite a few universities that are keen, so we will see. We may be global in the Middle East as well. So Middle East, North Africa, Canada, and one person in Australia.
That's right. Yeah.
There's only one outlet, isn't there?
Say again?
There's only one in Australia anyway, isn't there?
Yeah, there's only one in Australia. There's only
We don't have
Kieron,
many.
so- No, we don't.
And I should tell you very quickly my little amusing thing that happened to me this week, which I'm trying to, if anyone's got any advice, if our audience knows anything about this, I'll be grateful. LinkedIn, a head teacher that I'm talking to, I'm going to be speaking with at their conference in June, was saying they tried to tag me in a LinkedIn post, and she said I couldn't find you. She'd written to me on LinkedIn, spelling my name incorrectly, and they're like, "Hi, Kieron," as often people do. And I don't mind people spelling my name wrong. In fact, I have all of the different aliases as emails so that everything comes through to me anyway. Doesn't bother me at all. But now it does. Because if people can't find me on LinkedIn, she said, maybe you're trying to keep under the radar. And I was like, no, it's the opposite.
No, you're the last person that wants to be under the radar.
Exactly. So the recommendation I had from a conversation with Perplexity was that I should add in the variants into my it's not the about us bit, there's the very next section on describing yourself. So I've done that. So my LinkedIn profile now says I'm Kieron, but I'm also Kieron, and I don't mind. And apparently that helps in finding me, but who knows? So it's a bit of a pain.
Well, speaking of not being able to find you, I heard you got lost on a golf course this week.
I did. I went to college, right, in I can probably say USP college out in Essex. So and it turns out I had a vague idea about this. The meeting was 1 till 3. I finished at 3. I was just over 2 miles from the train station. Got a taxi there, no problem. Went to get a taxi home. Now we're doing school runs. Got an Uber. Oh, we can connect you with a driver in 20 minutes to then find out how long that driver will be. I was like, this isn't going to work. So I thought, how long is it going to be to walk? And Google brought the map up and went, yeah, it will take you 45 minutes. And I was like, all right, it's not a bad day. I'll walk it. Well, guess what? Google Maps sent me through the woods. I was going down this muddy path through the woods thinking, this is surely not right. And I'm looking at the Google Maps and I'm slightly next to the path I'm supposed to be on, but I think that's just literally because I'm in the sticks. And then I came out the other side. So I've gone down this big valley, and then I came into a golf course, and I had to go through a golf course up the other side. And I was busy. I got somebody whistled at me as they were trying to do one of the what do you call it?
What do you call it? When they were hitting one of them balls with them
when
stick
you're kicking
things.
off, teeing off. That's the word, isn't it? Teeing off, and I was walking across the lawn, where that's called fairway. I'm not very good in golf, as you might notice. So
you always said golf was ruining. Why would I want to carry sticks around a dusty field? Hilarious.
Exactly, terrible idea. Anyway, so yeah, I was cursing the college, and I have said to them, I'm not doing a meeting that will finish at 3 o'clock again, in person at least.
Unless they've booked a taxi for you, or they can guarantee you back to the station.
Drop me back. Yeah, it was a horrible walk. Yeah, I didn't enjoy it.
Right. Well, on that fine note, unless you've got anything else, I'm going to drain my beer and go to the bloody dentist's.
Well, I do feel very sorry for you, and also sorry for your dentist. So
I'm just going to go and brush my teeth before I go, because I don't really want to be turning up smelling a beer and her go, hang on, jolly minute, what have you been up to?
And I hope that the dentist isn't feeling like it's like a birthday coming up or anything. I was convinced if I go to my dentist near Christmas, then he goes, oh, hang on.
Like,
hang on, we ought
need
to do
something
that.
really expensive doing.
My kids need bikes this year, so we're going to do something in there to get a bike.
Yeah, he's the pain isn't in the mouth, it's in the wallet. That's where it really hurts.
Well, at least that's better.
Cool. All right, fella, you have a good weekend, and I'll catch you next week.
Cheers,
Cheers,
mate. Nice to see you. Take care, mate. Bye.